The power landscape is changing very, very rapidly, and the game changer is renewables. So 234 gigawatt with 116 gigawatt of solar, 51 gigawatt of wind, and with this kind of variable renewable energy present in the country, a lot of challenges are associated with this. So it is contributing around 14% annually in the last financial year, and in terms of instantaneous levels, we have achieved 40% on 2nd of June, wherein 82 gigawatt was met from VRE. So variability of the renewable sources needs to be managed through adequacy in terms of both resources as well as reserves, including flexible resources. Markets have a very, very important role to play in helping maintaining the portfolio balancing and sourcing of power and last minute readjustments that every utility needs to make. The present, as compared to international standards where there are centralized and mandatory markets, ours is a voluntary framework, wherein the size of the market stands under 10% as on today as on the short-term side. So market structure is also slightly more complex given the way that we are organized in terms of having multiple power exchanges, which we have chosen by choice, trading licensees, multiple trading licensees, and of course recent addition is the 2 OTC platforms that we have. So given this kind of market structure, we are saddled with multiple price discoveries happening, multiple prices, multiple time frames, and all those things happening in the structure. So market coupling is probably one measure through which we can bring convergence in the prices and consolidate liquidity for a better and more robust price discovery. In fact, while market coupling is being discussed very recently in a heated manner, way back in 2008 when power exchanges were introduced, so we were associated with this. So allocation of transmission corridor was a potential problem amongst the exchanges. Given the same physical delivery market allocation, when the second exchange came up, this was a very, very important criteria for ensuring non-discriminatory operation. So it was deliberated, all possible options were listed out, and we looked at various pro rata methods, ad hoc allocations, ad valorem, and all those kind of things. But then it was also discussed that coupling all volume together would probably give the most optimal utilization of the transmission. So in those days, but then coupling at that point in time was not taken up very, very seriously. In fact, it was considered very, very complex. Now that we are at a stage where we can look at coupling, but then in those days, it was not thought so. Then survival of the exchanges came an issue, and we passed through an era where 10% of the available margins were given to the smaller exchanges. I think that lasted for nearly 2016 to 2022, wherein we needed to maintain, because the spirit of the earlier regulation was, in fact, the exchanges when they were introduced with the spirit of light-handed regulation. The CRC orders, the guidelines under which they were established, mentions that they wanted to look at light-handed regulation, with exchanges being allowed to compete to bring in value to the customers. Now the current set of power market regulations 2021 envisages market coupling with the objectives defined as discovery of uniform market clearing price, optimal use of transmission infrastructure, maximization of economic surplus. So the Honorable Commission gave us a direction to run a pilot for market coupling. We were also required to code the necessary algorithm for carrying out the market coupling. So in the process, we looked at different market segments. The one more thing was that there are different market segments: DAM, RTM, GDAM, and combined together we have integrated DAM and many other segments as well. So as part of the exercise wherein we got together the data and the algorithm, studied the algorithm parts for all the exchanges, we took about 29 months of data from all bid data, coupled them together, validated the engine that we had coded in-house with each of the exchanges and their price discovery, and then combined together. Finally, we ran a 4-month pilot. It took us some time, although the time frame given in the orders were slightly less, but then we took a little more time than that. But then We ran the pilot for the 4-month stipulated 4-month period from 1st December 2024 to 31st March 2025. The DAM results clearly show an increase in economic surplus by about 38%. The liquidity, of course, is largely concentrated in one of the exchanges, but then off and on we do keep getting bids in the other exchanges as well. So if you look at the coupling part, yes, it does offer some benefit. An increase of 0.2% in the cleared volume was also observed, and some savings were definitely quantified. They are there in the order for all. We also carried out RTM coupling and on the post-factor basis, and of course SCD also. There are different challenges associated with each segment. Finally, based on whatever the study outcome was, the Commission decided to implement coupling of day-ahead market to begin with by January 2026. For successful implementation, I think Director MDI also, Professor Sahai also mentioned that a roadmap or the implementation plan needs to be clearly laid out. So some of the aspects that we consider essential prerequisites is a lot of work needs to go on into the algorithm part. Internationally, if you look at market coupling in Europe, they all run the same engine. So harmonization of the engine at all levels amongst the 3 exchanges, and of course, as the 4th coupling operator, Grid India is also directed to be a coupling operator as the 4th for the purposes of audit and other aspects. So the engine must be similar for effective coupling. Then comes the product definitions. Product definitions maybe need to be harmonized because we need to have then, of course, similar products which can be integrated into the coupling part. The clearing engine and of course are the most crucial element. They are the underlying for the entire coupling exercise, and that needs to be brought out very clearly. Formulation of and documentation of the pre and the post processing rules. A lot of pre-filtering happens and a lot of post processing happens. So that also needs to be very clearly laid out into the rules of the game. So everybody has to know it upfront and everybody has to implement it in a similar manner. Now coming to coupling, the establishment of data security, data integrity, data privacy of the bid information, all those has to be handled very sensitively, and a definite protocol has to be brought out for this. And with coupling, we would soon have inter-exchange settlements also happening. It is now the exchanges are doing settlement on their own. So inter-exchange settlements would also start happening. Most importantly, what I consider, these are the integration aspects, but most importantly, a governance structure needs to be evolved. A governance structure not only to administer the entire coupling exercise, an ongoing process, but also for new product management, maybe change management in the algorithm. If there is if something is required to be changed in the algorithm, how it is to be done, what is the process to be followed, what stakeholder engagement has to be done for that. That needs to be done, and of course, audits are of course very, very important. Audits must happen so that we know that the price discovery is very, very robust. It is expected that the enhanced market efficiency, elimination of price divergences across exchanges, and optimal utilization of the transmission infrastructure are some of the benefits that would accrue through this market coupling. Coming to the other subject of today's webinar, the electricity derivatives. I believe that the electricity derivatives have a very, very important role to play in creating a robust, liquid and efficient electricity market on the overall in the country. Globally, we have seen forwards and futures playing a very important role along in synergy with the physical markets. Till now, we have had only physical markets in the country. Forward markets, they have a dual role as per my limited understanding. I'm not an expert on the financial side, but then I have a limited understanding that they allow participants to predict and project into the future what the prices are likely to be, and they kind of represent the adequacy scenario in the future. Presently, we have started with a word of caution with only monthly futures, few months ahead, but going by international standards, these are available up to 5 years ahead. Say, if new investment has to be done, what kind of price signals are being thrown up for them? So this is one aspect. The other aspect, important aspect, and the role played by the derivatives is to provide hedging instruments to the market participants. So Presently, I think last 1.5 months or 1 month or so, we have had some price discovery happening in the futures, monthly futures contract, around 4.5 rupees, and so both the MCX and NSE are doing that. And we are hopeful that with the, going forward, that this would of course provide a lot of liquidity to develop gradually in the process. Initial phases is there when the liquidity is still picking up, but going forward, this needs to grow further. A very, very important perspective that I consider a very important part is the involvement of the physical utilities, the DISCOMs in the derivative markets. The anchoring has to be provided by those utilities, and without their active participation, there can be a lot of undesirable price fluctuations which may happen on purely speculative behavior. So going further, like I said, that we need longer term products in the derivative side, as well as we need maybe customized contract, maybe for the peak, off-peak, weekends, maybe these kind of products also would actually evolve based on the customer requirements. So efficient price formation, of course, we hope would be assisted because of the presence of the derivative, and there is definitely bound to be interplay between the physical and the financial segments of the going. Having said that the interplay is bound to happen, market monitoring and surveillance becomes very, very complex. Hitherto, the sector regulator looks at the physical part, the financial regulator looks at the financial part, but somebody has to link the two and have a larger view of both the physical and the financial parts together. Somebody behaving in a particular manner in the physical segment could be leveraging his position in the financial segment in some other way which may not be directly apparent to us. I think the recent Jane Street episode, is pretty popular, and it has been recently been highlighted how the underlying were manipulated to take advantage of in the financial segment. So market monitoring and surveillance, of course, would take a very, very important role going forward. So with this, I think this is all that I would like to say at this time, and thank you MDI for having me here to share my thoughts, and wish this webinar a grand success with all the experts and the deliberations. Thank you so much.